Hello and welcome to the Seasiders Preview Show. I'm Jed Mills and here's what's coming up on today's episode. We'll look ahead to Saturday's match as the Seasiders travel to Blackburn Rovers in the Sky Bet Championship. We'll hear from Matty Virtue after the midfielder made his long-awaited return in midweek. Head coach Neil Critchley looks ahead to the weekend's game at Ewood Park. Plus, we'll look at some of the work going on in the community as part of the EFL Week of Action. Well, joining me today in the studio for his preview show debut to discuss all of that and more is Blackpool's Academy Director Kieran Donnelly. Well, Kieran, thanks very much for joining us. We've talked a bit during this season about the Academy. Good to have you in the chair.
Thank you.
From your point of view as an Academy Director, sum up the season so far.
It's been a really positive season. We've had good press, we've had good runs in the FA Youth Cup and lots of positive performances. So it's been nice to have that little bit of buzz around the town and around the club for how the Academy's doing and how the youth team's doing. So it's been really positive. We're pleased that group's had the rewards, that they're now in a cup final. But they can't really look at the season and think they could have had any better experience. They've had good exposure, they've played on the stadium pitch a few times, we've had some great trips, and the work going on below that to try and filter through is getting better all the time. So yeah, it's been a positive season and one we can build on for the next one. And
some of the lads as well getting pro contracts, which essentially is that your job really to make sure these players are ready for when Neil Critchley calls upon them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's rewards. You know, when you start out as a young boy, you dream of being a footballer, and part of that is getting your first professional contract. So it's a great achievement for those players. It is part of my job to get them to that point, but that's only another step on the ladder. The next one is a tougher one of trying to break into this first team. We've got good support network in place at the club now with the loan pathway as well as the under-18s and the development squad. So we can support our young players to get there, and we're really looking forward to potentially trying to pierce that first team group with one or two of them boys that people have seen this season in the under-18s, and we're confident that we can do it given the right time and that little bit of luck of, you talk to any young player and when they get their debut, their first opportunity, it's generally somebody's got injured in the first team or something's happened that's a bit different, and that's what them players will need, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
When they sort of cross that line into first team, do you still have a bit of a dealing with them, or is it very much you've now passed them on? How does sort of that work, when especially they're still very young?
No, they still come under our umbrella. We're the constant to them. That we're the ones that they've seen every day, and you can't underestimate what a massive step it is for these young lads when they leave school. They come into work for the first time. They have to report every day. The training, they're hard, and then that next step when they go with the first team, and they're with players that they're watching playing in front of big crowds every week, and it can be quite daunting. And seeing the manager, even though our manager's a fantastic person and great with the players, any young player looks up and is like, "What's the manager?"
Yeah.
So they still come under our umbrella. We still look after them, communicate with them, try and help them. But then there is that element of turning into a man and standing on your own 2 feet and being confident enough to go into that first team environment and not just be happy that you're there, but actually look at the players that you're up against and think, "Do you know what, I'm here to take your place. I'm going to do what it takes, and if I have to upset a few to get there, then so be it."
What's been the difference since you were in an academy to you running an academy? And I'm talking about as a youngster, so like the likes of Instagram, this sort of new generation of they want it now. I mean, they must be knocking on your door going, like say, "I'm better than him in midfield" or whatever. Yeah. And what is the difference between you when you were in academy and now as an academy director?
Yeah, I mean, I think young people are different now. I don't want to sound like I'm completely old school, but they've got different aspects of their lives that affect them. When you talk about social media and peer pressure, it's more now. And they're better protected. It's a nicer environment for them now, and we have to be careful about how we look after these boys. But they've still, behind all that, there's still got to be the sharp focus that when I was a young player to what young players are like now. They've still got to have that sharp focus of where they're going to do, where they want to get to, what sacrifices they've got to make to get there, and the levels that they've got to get to in order to be successful in the game. The rewards are unbelievable, as we all know, if you get to the top, and to make a good career in the game is also a fantastic thing to be able to achieve. And all we can do is try and support them along that journey, make sure that they remain focused, make sure that them outside influences don't get to them and they don't start to lose that hunger and desire and that boyhood thing that they had when they first started playing, that fire that was burning in the belly. We've got to keep supporting that to allow them to get there, and that's our job, and that'll never change, and that's why we do it, because it's such a joy. Working with some of the players now who we've got at 19, 20, I was their coach when they were 9. Yeah. So seeing that journey, it's up and down. Nobody just goes through the roof all the way through it. They get little drop-offs. Sometimes they want to quit football. Sometimes they're doing really well. Some of them don't grow till they're late. There's so many aspects of a young player coming through, and we've just got to try and support them as best we can to help them achieve that ultimate goal. And is it very much as well, real sort of cohesion with the parents? Because, like you say, from 9 to 20, it's keeping them on the floor as well, but grounded. But I suppose again, the parents and supporting them. I suppose is that as well. Sometimes the parents are more difficult than the players. We all know, we've all been in the pub with a parent of somebody who thinks their boy's going to be a footballer, and managing that aspect to a player coming through the academy is difficult. It's one of the harder parts of the job. We try and explain from the start when a player joins the academy that unfortunately this is likely to end up with you not being a footballer. We've all seen the stats of how many actually go through to be a footballer. They've got to enjoy the journey, enjoy the competitive edge, enjoy the discipline that they get from the lives of being a young elite athlete. And hopefully if it's not successful, then they can go off and be successful in other areas of life. But you've got to have the buy-in from the parents. You've got to have them supported what you're doing, because we spend a limited amount of hours with them every week. They then go back home and their primary contact is the family. And if the messages they're receiving there are completely different from the messages we get, then you're going to have that barrier of development. And if you can get them on board and everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet and pushing forward, then we might just get some success. I suppose the message is just when they come in then is just enjoy the ride, and you never know where it might take you. Absolutely. Yeah. I think if you take it too serious from too younger age, and what I mean by that is, of course we want them to be determined to be successful, because you can't get to the top. But if you put everything that you've got on getting there and you factor out everything else, then you've got a lack of balance in your life. And especially as a child, that can have a detrimental effect for the future, because when that potential disappointment comes, you just don't know what to do with yourself. And so we've got to support them as best we can to come through that. And I think we're doing okay with it. Well, you are. I mean, you've been very successful this season. We sort of touched on the FA Youth and what happened midweek as well, which must have been another tick in the box for you guys. Yeah, I mean, we're pleased when the group win cup matches and get through to the next round, and we're happy to see them get the plaudits for doing that. It's a mark that they're a good group. What we get judged on is how many good individuals are within that group, because we can set up a team to go and win a game, but how many good individuals have we got who might be able to get into our first team? That's the ultimate judge against us. That's interesting. So is it a case of sometimes it's not all about the winning? It's about, because like you said, you might go, well, let's stick him right back and him left and we'll probably win this game. But actually you think, well, we probably want him to develop more as a right midfielder or a centre midfielder. Maybe not a stronger position as yet, but we know in the future that will benefit him. Does that make sense? 100%. Right. We make sacrifices every day for the long-term benefit. We look at a player and think, he's struggling at the moment, but just go with it, because he'll come through it eventually. Whereas if we were working in a first team environment, you snap decision, right, get them off, get somebody else on there who can do the job better. You've got to stick with players, you've got to play players at the right time, you've got to make sure that that pathway is not clogged up, so that if there's a younger player, excuse me, coming through, that's going to be better than someone who currently holds a position, that we put them in earlier to give them the platform. Now, they might not be as good as the older player right now, but their output in the future will be big. So we're constantly playing with the dynamics of what's the best for the long term, not the immediate short term. However, if the immediate short term is the boys doing well and enjoying the football and winning trophies and being able to enjoy that, then we're not anti-winning. We're not going to go out of our way to not win, but it's just I don't take the joy from the group winning as much as I do from seeing an individual perform at a high level, where on the quiet I'm thinking, do you know what, we've got a player there, he's got a cracking chance. And that's more enjoyment.
And I suppose that's the difference between when people say about the sort of under 23s football and men's football, and that's the difference, isn't it, is that sometimes they may be coaxed into where in men's football you're just dragged off if you're not playing well, and I suppose that's how the importance of the loan system is for Blackpool at the moment. Yeah,
the loan system's been an eye-opener. It's been, on the main, a really positive experience. I've generally managed all the players, the young players going out and sorting out which clubs they go to and where they're playing and monitoring that. And we've had mixed success. We've had one or two that have just gone through the roof and exceeded that level where we've gone, let's pull them back and try them at the next one. And we've had others that have struggled and had to come back down. We've had different types of manager at non-league level that are fantastic with young players, some that are old school. And it's really good for a young player's development. We can give them all the development, but at some stage, they've got to stand on their own 2 feet. They've got to go and be a man and own that if they don't perform on that day, they're getting hooked off. Or they don't get in that team to start with without earning the right. So it's a really good experience to get them grounded, because we know when they go into our first team environment, even though we've got a great management team who are developers of young people, it's still 3 points on a Saturday. And if you're not going to help them get 3 points on a Saturday, you're probably not going to be in and around it.